Now, there were a couple of popular diet studies out there where investigators who never had done really a low-carb diet before kind of got books, handed them out, and kind of supported people a little bit. So what I hear filtered through this study is, well, Atkins is okay, but you only get 2 kilos of weight loss at a year. And I said, yeah, that's when you don't really teach people what to do and you don't really help them. You just got to know that the Danziger study and the Gardner studies are out there, but I think their results were pretty unimpressive. In our analysis of people coming through, all comers, meaning some people really don't want to lose weight, some do want to lose weight, some have diabetes and all these other medical problems, we get about 30 to 50 pounds of weight loss per year on average, and the range is from 20 to 100. When you're in a medical clinic supporting people, or you have a dietitian who's supporting people, understanding how to do it, you can get much better results. But those aren't published, so a lot of people won't believe you unless they're publications. Christopher Gardner, I have to hand it to him. He's the only researcher who did a first study ever on low carb and has tried to get funding again to follow the data. Most of these other scientists did it and then quit it. And I asked Gary Foster, why don't you keep studying? He said, I can't get money to study it. So it's difficult to sustain. So what's happening is people like Jeff Volek are training the youngsters like Cassandra Forsyth, a new generation of scientists who carry it forward and take it as part of their career. And that's how the science changes. So it's very difficult to get a panel of people who are already near their end of their career to fund research that's so outside of their comfort zone. And that just explains why we don't have all of the studies. Christopher Gardner, in unpublished data, he talks about this and has this on a YouTube video. Low-carb diets work whether you're insulin resistant or insulin sensitive, and low-fat diets really didn't work well if you're insulin resistant. And this kind of explains why historically low-fat, low-calorie diets have worked. Back in the 1990s, when people didn't have insulin resistance, the low-fat diet works pretty well. But Dr. Atkins had a selection bias of people who had insulin resistance, so it was led toward the low-carb diet explicitly. Now, unfortunately, the U.S. we have more insulin-resistant people than insulin-sensitive people. So even Christopher Gardner says, who's a vegetarian guy, says the low-carb diet has a role for insulin-resistant people. Now, I look at this and I say, so low-carb works whether you're insulin-resistant or not. Why not just use low-carb? Well, I mean, that's kind of my perspective, but go figure. Carb restriction treats metabolic syndrome, lots of papers out there. So what are the youngsters doing now? And these are the people we need to shepherd. Will Yancey did a study of low-fat and orlistat, so it's a drug in a diet, and it's kind of a traditional FDA approved model versus the low-carb ketogenic versus just the diet. And the drug and the diet did about the same as the diet. So the low-carb diet did as well as low-fat diet, low-fat, low-calorie, and orlistat, which is a fat blocker that's FDA approved. So low-carb diets can do very well. And what we're finding is that blood pressure goes down better in low-carb diets than in other kinds of diets. So let me wrap up. Carbohydrate is not an essential nutrient. Low-carb diets lead to weight loss because abnormal hunger and appetite goes away. Low-carb diets are adequate protein diets. Nutritional ketosis is a marker of burning fat. That's all. For many people, low-carb diets are easy to follow. Others may need instruction and support. And low-carb ketogenic diets reduce cardiometabolic risk by addressing the metabolic syndrome, or triglyceride and HDL and waist circumference and blood pressure. So I'd like to just wrap up with something that might be helpful for a video. Maybe Tom can use this. So here's how fat comes in the body. Fat gets taken up by the cells, and the liver is making large LDL. So fat does not lead to fat in your blood very long. It gets cleared pretty fast. And then that large LDL is not leading to atherosclerosis. I put a question mark on there because Galileo didn't get hanged because he said it was all a hypothesis. So this is all a hypothesis. All right. So here's what happens when you have carbohydrate in the diet and fat in the diet. I'd love to see this animated, you know? So it's the carbohydrates that get turned into the triglyceride, and then they get put on the VLDL, which leads to the small LDL and the atherosclerosis. So it's not the fat in the diet. I came to the National Lipid Association conference last year, and I asked a very intelligent university employee her experience. And what should I say to the group? These are, 500 lipidologists from around the country coming to an annual meeting. She's a 50-year-old white female with obesity, and she wanted to lose weight, and her experience was that her weight went from 178 pounds to 138 pounds after a carbohydrate-restricted diet. Her cholesterol, total cholesterol went from 245 to 209, her triglycerides went to from 247 to 46, LDL went from 141 to 119, HDL 54 to 81, glucose 92 to 88. Everything got better. She felt great. She felt so much better. This may be your experience. So she said, ask the doctors, why wasn't I given this option before? I was just given the option of the medications. And I think that's what we need to ask, and also figure out how to fix that so that people are offered this first. And I think we can actually do a lot to change the mindset of people around the country, and now with, Sweden, hooray, in the world, and everyone can have a healthier life, perhaps. So thank you so much, and I look forward to a great conference.
Thanks for watching highlights from the 2012 Low Carb Cruise, and stay tuned for full details on the 2013 Low Carb Cruise. Visit lowcarbcruiseinfo.com.
2 years ago, I released this book, The Mouthtrap, The Butt Stops Here. And since then, I've been a year on a low-carb diet, and I've changed the book. I have a new edition. I don't have to tell you there's a problem with what we've been eating. It's everywhere. You can see the obesity. You hear all the time of people being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, chronic this and chronic that. And I've done a lot of research, I've attended lectures, for a year, I've just been studying this. The first book told you how to mind whatever diet you chose. And this book tells you how to mind a low-carb diet. And it helps you go through a whole year of changing your life. It'll help you mind the lifestyle. There's more and more evidence that carbohydrates are the culprit here. And mostly it's about sugar. We don't want to give up sugar, but I can make it so easy for you. And the Mouthtrap, The Butt Stops Here, the low-carb version, is going to help you do that. I hope my book can help a younger generation, because you don't need to wait till you're my age to change your life. And I feel cheated that I didn't know the truth, and now I know the truth, and it's in my book. When you read the book, you'll find out that I should weigh 288 pounds right now, but I've been on a low-carb diet for a year and 2 months, and I weigh 135. But if I followed calories in, calories out, I would weigh 288. One of the most exciting things for me is this book is available as a book. So you can get it as an e-book, an audio book, or a real book.